The sun disappeared behind the towering red cliffs of Echo Canyon, casting long shadows across the dusty trail. Elena Diaz pulled her faded denim jacket tighter around her shoulders and adjusted her sleeping 3-year-old son Miguel against her chest. The late October air in northern Arizona carried a biting chill that whispered of the coming winter. 3 days on the road had left them both exhausted, but they were almost there, almost safe. "Just a little further, mijo," she whispered, pressing a kiss to his forehead. The bus had dropped them at the highway junction 10 miles back, and the long walk had taken its toll on her city-worn shoes and aching muscles. But each painful step carried them farther from Phoenix, farther from Marco and his fists, farther from the fear that had become her constant companion over the last 5 years. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The small handwritten sign appeared around the bend. Copper Creek, population 847. Elena's heart quickened. Her grandmother's childhood friend Martha had promised her shelter here, a chance to rebuild, to disappear. Martha's latest letter had mentioned a small cabin on her property where Elena and Miguel could stay until they got on their feet. It wasn't much, but it was more than they'd had in years. A chance at safety, at peace. As she rounded the final curve in the road, Elena stopped, momentarily stunned by the view before her. Copper Creek sat nestled in a valley, surrounded by majestic red canyon walls that glowed like fire in the setting sun. Old buildings with wooden facades lined the main street, giving the impression that time had slowed down here, preserving a quieter way of life that had long since vanished from the crowded streets of Phoenix. Miguel stirred against her, his dark eyelashes fluttering open. "Are we there, Mama?" he asked, voice thick with sleep. "Yes, mijo, we made it." She tried to keep the exhaustion from her voice, mustering a smile she didn't quite feel. Her feet throbbed, and her shoulders ached from carrying both Miguel and their single duffel bag. But they were here. They had escaped. The main street was quiet, as dusk settled over the town. A few pickup trucks were parked outside what looked like a diner, the warm glow from its windows spilling onto the sidewalk. Elena shifted Miguel to her hip and fished Martha's letter from her pocket, checking the directions one more time. "Redwood Inn at the end of Main Street," she murmured to herself. "Martha will leave a key with the owner, Ruby." As she walked, Elena felt curious eyes following her. Small towns noticed newcomers. She knew that much. She kept her gaze forward, trying to project a confidence she didn't feel. The weight of her past pressed down on her shoulders, heavier than any bag she could carry. Marco wouldn't find them here, she repeated to herself. He wouldn't think to look in a place so remote, so disconnected from their life in the city. The Redwood Inn appeared ahead, a 2-story building with a wide porch and hanging flower baskets that swayed gently in the evening breeze. Elena climbed the steps, each one an effort for her weary legs. The door creaked as she pushed it open, revealing a small lobby with a polished wooden counter. "Can I help you?" A woman in her 60s looked up from a paperback novel, glasses perched on the end of her nose. Her silver hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her eyes, warm but shrewd, assessed Elena and Miguel. "I'm looking for Ruby," Elena said, her voice cracking slightly. "I'm Martha Wilkins' friend. She said you'd have a key for me." Recognition dawned on the woman's face. "You must be Elena. Martha's been expecting you." She reached beneath the counter and produced an old-fashioned key attached to a wooden tag. "I'm Ruby. Martha asked me to tell you she's sorry she couldn't meet you herself. Her arthritis is acting up something fierce with the weather changing." Elena accepted the key, relief washing over her. "Thank you. Could you point me toward her property? The letter said it wasn't far." Ruby's expression faltered. "Oh, honey, didn't you get Martha's message? She tried calling the number you gave her yesterday." Cold dread pooled in Elena's stomach. "Message? No, I got rid of my phone. Marco could track it." The last words came out as barely a whisper. Ruby's eyes softened with understanding. "Martha fell last night. Broke her hip. Her nephew drove her to the hospital. In Flagstaff this morning. She'll be there at least a week, maybe longer." The room seemed to tilt beneath Elena's feet. Martha was their only connection here, their only hope for shelter. Miguel sensed her distress and wrapped his arms tighter around her neck, burying his face against her shoulder. "The cabin," Elena managed. "She said there was a cabin we could stay in." "It's on her property, about 2 miles outside town," Ruby confirmed. "But honey, it's not ready. Martha was planning to stock it with supplies today. There's no food, no linens, probably not even running water yet." The tears Elena had been holding back for 3 days threatened to spill over. She blinked rapidly, refusing to break down here, in front of this stranger, in front of Miguel. "Is there a motel?" she asked, already knowing their meager savings wouldn't stretch more than a night or two. Ruby shook her head. "Not in Copper Creek. Nearest one's 30 miles back toward the highway." She studied Elena for a long moment. "Look, I've got a spare room upstairs. It's nothing fancy, but you and your boy can stay there tonight. We'll figure something out in the morning." The kindness of the offer nearly undid Elena. "I can't. I don't want to impose." "Nonsense." Ruby waved away her protest. "Martha would have my hide if I let you wander off with nowhere to go. Come on, I'll show you upstairs. You look dead on your feet." Elena followed Ruby up a narrow staircase, each step an effort for her exhausted body. The room was small but clean, with a double bed covered in a patchwork quilt and a window overlooking the main street. "Bathrooms down the hall," Ruby explained. "Kitchen's downstairs. Help yourself to whatever's in the fridge. I'm guessing you haven't eaten in a while." "Thank you," Elena managed, emotion clogging her throat. "We can pay something." "We'll talk about that later." Ruby cut her off gently. "Get some rest. Things always look brighter in the morning." After Ruby left, Elena set Miguel on the bed and sank down beside him, finally allowing the tears to fall. She had come so far, risked so much, only to have their lifeline yanked away. What would they do now? Her savings would barely last a week, even in a place as small as Copper Creek. "Mama, why are you crying?" Miguel asked, his small hand patting her cheek. Elena quickly wiped her tears. "I'm just tired, mijo, and happy we're here, away from the city." The lie tasted bitter on her tongue, but she couldn't burden her son with their precarious situation. "Is this our new home?" he asked, looking around the simple room with curiosity. "Just for tonight," she answered truthfully. "Tomorrow we'll find our real home." After a simple meal from Ruby's kitchen and a warm bath for Miguel, Elena tucked her son into bed. He fell asleep almost instantly, his breathing deep and even. She stood at the window, watching as the last lights in the small town winked out one by one. The vastness of the starlit sky above the canyon was both beautiful and terrifying in its enormity. She had never felt so small, so alone. A noise from the street below caught her attention. A truck had pulled up outside the inn, its headlights cutting through the darkness before going dark. A tall figure emerged, moving with an easy, confident stride toward the entrance. Moments later, she heard the front door open and close, followed by the low murmur of voices, Ruby's and a man's. Elena moved away from the window, suddenly aware of how vulnerable they were. Old fears crept back. What if Marco had somehow tracked them? What if he'd called the police, reported Miguel kidnapped? The thought sent a fresh wave of panic through her. She checked the door, wishing it had a deadbolt, and wedged the room's single chair beneath the handle. Sleep eluded her as she lay beside Miguel, her mind racing with possibilities, each one darker than the last. She had less than $800 to her name. No job, no car, no contacts, except Martha, who was now unavailable. The canyon walls that had seemed so beautiful at sunset now felt like prison walls closing in. Morning came too soon, sunlight streaming through the thin curtains. Elena had finally fallen into a restless sleep just before dawn, and awoke to find Miguel already up, playing quietly with his small toy dinosaur on the floor beside the bed. "Good morning, Mama," he said with a brightness that squeezed her heart. "My tummy is hungry." Elena forced a smile. "Then let's find some breakfast, Valiente." She quickly freshened up in the bathroom down the hall, wincing at her reflection. Dark circles, shadowed her eyes, and her olive skin looked pale with exhaustion. She smoothed her long, dark hair and pinched some color into her cheeks, a habit from her years with Marco when appearing tired or unwell would trigger his temper. Downstairs, the smell of coffee and bacon filled the air. Ruby stood at an old stove in the small kitchen behind the lobby, spatula in hand. "There you are," she said warmly. "Sit down, both of you. Breakfast is almost ready." Elena hesitated. "You've already done so much." "And a few eggs and bacon won't break me," Ruby interrupted. "Sit, eat, then we'll talk." Miguel needed no further encouragement, climbing eagerly onto a chair at the small kitchen table. Elena joined him, gratitude and anxiety warring within her. As Ruby set plates before them, the back door opened, and a man stepped into the kitchen. Elena tensed immediately, her fork clattering against her plate. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with sun-bronzed skin and eyes the color of the canyon walls, a deep, burnished amber. His dark hair was a bit too long, curling slightly at the nape of his neck, and a day's worth of stubble shadowed his jaw. "Morning, Ruby," he said, his voice a low rumble. Then his eyes fell on Elena and Miguel, surprise registering in his expression. "Didn't know you had guests." "Nathan Blackwood, meet Elena Diaz and her son Miguel," Ruby introduced them. "They arrived last night, friends of Martha's." Elena managed a tight nod, her body still rigid with instinctive caution. 5 years with Marco had taught her to be wary of men, especially those who carried themselves with such physical confidence. Nathan's expression shifted as he noted her tension. He moved slowly, deliberately, keeping his distance as he poured himself a cup of coffee. "Martha's in the hospital," he said. It wasn't a question. "Broken hip," Ruby confirmed. "Elena was supposed to stay in the cabin, but it's not ready yet." Nathan leaned against the counter considering. "I was heading out there this morning anyway. Martha asked me to check on the place. Make sure the roof's not leaking with these autumn rains coming." Ruby brightened. "That's perfect. You can take Elena and Miguel with you, show them the cabin. Maybe between the two of you, you can get it habitable." Alarm flared in Elena's chest. Go alone with a stranger? A man she'd just met? Every instinct screamed against it. Nathan seemed to read her thoughts. "Or I could just assess what needs doing and report back," he offered, his voice carefully neutral. We should see it," Elena made herself say. They had no other options. If the cabin could be made livable quickly, it would solve their most immediate problem. If it's not an imposition. "No imposition," Nathan replied. "I promised Martha I'd look after the place while she's laid up." Miguel, who had been watching the exchange with curious eyes while demolishing his scrambled eggs, suddenly spoke up. "Do you have a horse? Cowboys have horses." A smile tugged at the corner of Nathan's mouth, softening his features. "Not a cowboy, buddy. I'm a park ranger. But yes, I do have a horse. 2, actually." Miguel's eyes widened with excitement. "Can I see them?" "Miguel," Elena admonished gently, "Mr. Blackwood is busy. He's already being kind enough to take us to the cabin." "Nathan," he corrected, "and it's no trouble. The horses are at my place, not far from Martha's property. We can stop there first if you'd like." Before Elena could respond, Ruby interjected. "Nathan's being modest. He's not just a ranger. He's the head ranger for Echo Canyon National Monument. Knows every inch of these canyons better than anyone. Born and raised here," Nathan added with a slight shrug. "My family's ranch borders the national land." The information should have been reassuring, but Elena remained cautious. Marco had been respected in their community too. A successful contractor with a charming smile and perfect manners in public. Only she had known the monster beneath the mask. "We should get going if we want to beat the heat," Nathan said, finishing his coffee. "It's supposed to hit 90 today, unseasonably warm for October." Elena nodded, helping Miguel clean the syrup from his hands and face. "We'll just get our bag." Upstairs, she quickly repacked their few belongings, her mind racing. She needed to see this cabin, to know if it could provide the sanctuary they so desperately needed. But trusting this stranger went against every protective instinct she'd developed. "Mama, is the cowboy man taking us to our new home?" Miguel asked as she zipped their duffel bag. He's a park ranger, mijo, and yes, he's taking us to see the cabin. But I don't know yet if it will be our home. She knelt before him, straightening his small flannel shirt. Remember what I told you about being careful around people we don't know? Miguel nodded solemnly. Don't tell our real names or where we came from. And stay close to you. The fact that her 3-year-old son understood the need for such caution broke Elena's heart all over again. That's right, but we're using our real names here because Martha is our friend. Just don't talk about Phoenix or your dad, okay? Okay, Mama. He wrapped his small arms around her neck, and Elena held him tight, drawing strength from his innocent trust. Downstairs, Nathan waited by a rugged, dark blue pickup truck, helping Ruby load a box into the back. Some essentials to get you started, Ruby explained as Elena approached. Canned goods, bread, coffee, some bedding. It's not much, but it'll tide you over. I don't know how to thank you, Elena stammered, overwhelmed by the kindness of these strangers. No need, Ruby patted her arm. That's just how we do things here. Folks look out for each other. Nathan opened the passenger door, then reached into the back seat to adjust a booster seat. Seeing Elena's surprised expression, he explained, "It was my niece's. She's outgrown it, but I keep it around for emergencies." The thoughtfulness of the gesture caught Elena off guard. She helped Miguel into the seat, checking the straps carefully before climbing into the passenger side herself. As they pulled away from the inn, Elena kept her gaze fixed on the road ahead, acutely aware of the man beside her. The cab of the truck smelled of leather, coffee, and the faint tang of pine. Nathan drove with one hand on the wheel, his movements relaxed but controlled. "Martha mentioned you're from the city," he said after a few minutes of silence. "Quite a change coming to a place like Copper Creek." Elena tensed. How much had Martha told him? Yes, we needed a change of scenery. Nathan nodded, not pressing further. "It grows on you. The quiet, the space. Took me a while to appreciate it myself, after college in Tucson." "You left and came back?" Elena asked, surprised. "For a while. Thought I wanted more excitement, more people." His mouth quirked in a half-smile. "Lasted about 4 years before the canyons called me home." They turned off the main road onto a dirt track that wound through scrubby juniper trees and towering red rock formations. Miguel pressed his face to the window, entranced by the wild landscape. "Look, Mama, those rocks look like giants." "Sentinel rocks," Nathan supplied. "Local legend says they're ancient warriors who guard the canyon." The truck crested a hill, revealing a stunning vista below. A small ranch house nestled against the base of a cliff, surrounded by corrals and outbuildings. Beyond it stretched the vast canyon, layers of red, orange, and gold stone carved by millions of years of wind and water. "My place," Nathan said simply, turning down the drive. "We'll stop just long enough to check on those horses Miguel wants to see, then head to Martha's." As they pulled up to the house, 2 border collies raced out to greet them, barking excitedly. "They're friendly," Nathan assured them, seeing Elena's instinctive protective move toward Miguel. "Just loud." He helped Miguel from his booster seat, and to Elena's surprise, her normally shy son showed no hesitation as Nathan lowered him to the ground. The dogs approached cautiously, seeming to sense the need for gentleness with the small child. "This is Scout and Ranger," Nathan introduced, kneeling beside Miguel. "Hold your hand out flat so they can sniff you." Miguel giggled as the dogs licked his fingers, then looked up at Elena with pure joy. "Mama, can we pet the horses now?" Nathan led them to a corral where 2 horses grazed, one a sleek chestnut, the other a dappled gray. "This is Thunder and Stormy," he said, reaching for a bucket of apple slices hanging on the fence. "Would you like to feed them?" Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Elena watched as Nathan patiently showed Miguel how to hold his palm flat with an apple slice, laughing at her son's delighted squeal when the horse's velvety muzzle tickled his hand. Something tight unwound slightly in her chest. Despite her wariness, there was something reassuring about Nathan's gentle manner with Miguel, the careful way he guided without pushing. "They're beautiful," she commented, cautiously reaching out to stroke the gray's neck. "They're working horses," Nathan said. "I use them for patrols in areas of the monument where vehicles can't go. But they're pets too, really." After a few more minutes with the horses, they continued their journey, turning onto an even narrower track that wound through a grove of ancient cottonwoods, their leaves starting to turn gold with the approaching autumn. "Martha's family has owned this land for 3 generations," Nathan explained as they drove. "Her grandfather was one of the original settlers here, back when they were mining copper in the canyon." The truck rounded a final bend, and Elena saw it, a small cabin nestled against the canyon wall, surrounded by towering pines. It was more rustic than she had imagined, the logs darkened with age, a stone chimney rising from the sloped roof. A small covered porch wrapped around one side, offering a view of the creek that tumbled over rocks nearby. "It's not much," Nathan said, misreading her silence for disappointment. "But it's solid. Martha's grandfather built it to last." "It's perfect," Elena whispered, emotion thick in her throat. After months of living in fear in a cramped apartment, where every noise might be Marco returning to hurt her again, the isolation of this cabin felt like a gift. Here, surrounded by wilderness, they could disappear, could heal. Nathan parked and they got out, Miguel immediately running to explore the porch while Elena hung back, taking in every detail. The cabin looked weathered but well-maintained, with newer shingles on the roof and freshly split firewood stacked neatly against one wall. "Martha said you could stay as long as you need," Nathan said, retrieving Ruby's box of supplies from the truck bed. "No rent for the first month, just help with maintaining the place." The generosity was overwhelming. "I can't accept that," Elena protested. "I need to pay something." Nathan studied her for a moment. "Martha mentioned you're good with numbers. The ranger station could use some help with paperwork, visitor logs, that sort of thing. It's part-time, but it pays." Elena stared at him, suspicion warring with desperate hope. "You're offering me a job? You don't even know me." "Martha vouched for you," he said simply. "That's good enough around here." He moved toward the cabin, adding over his shoulder. "Besides, no one else wants the job. Too boring for most folks." Elena followed him onto the porch, where Miguel was peering through the windows, his breath fogging the glass. Nathan unlocked the door, which creaked open to reveal a simple but charming interior. A main room with a stone fireplace, small kitchen area, and 2 doors that presumably led to bedrooms. A thick layer of dust covered everything, and cobwebs stretched in the corners, but Elena could immediately see the potential. Large windows let in streams of sunlight, illuminating wooden floors and walls lined with empty bookshelves. "Hasn't been used in a while," Nathan commented, setting down the supplies. "Martha's been meaning to fix it up for guests, but her arthritis makes it hard." "It's amazing," Elena said honestly. The simple cabin represented everything she had dreamed of during those dark nights in Phoenix. Peace, safety, a fresh start. Nathan moved methodically through the cabin, checking windows, the fireplace, the small propane stove in the kitchen. "Water's from a well," he explained, turning a tap that sputtered before producing a stream of clear water. "Electricity too, though it can be spotty during storms. There's a generator out back for emergencies." "And heat?" Elena asked, thinking of the approaching winter. "Fireplace in here, wood stove in the main bedroom." He nodded toward one of the doors. "Plenty of firewood. I'll show you how to work everything." Miguel had already claimed the smaller bedroom, calling out excitedly about the bunk beds built into one wall. Elena followed his voice, finding him climbing the ladder to the top bunk, his earlier shyness completely forgotten. "Careful, mijo," she cautioned, though she couldn't help smiling at his excitement. "This is gonna be my room, mama," he declared. "Can we stay here forever?" The question hung in the air, filled with innocent hope that pierced Elena's heart. Forever was a concept she no longer trusted, a promise too easily broken. "We'll stay as long as we can," she answered carefully, meeting Nathan's gaze over Miguel's head. Something in his expression suggested he understood more than she had said, that he recognized the look of someone running, someone hiding. His next words confirmed it. "Copper Creek is good at keeping secrets," he said quietly. "People here mind their own business, and they look after their own." Elena felt tears threatening again and turned away quickly, moving back to the main room to hide her emotion. She ran a hand over the dusty mantle, trying to compose herself. "It needs some work," she managed. "Nothing we can't handle," Nathan replied, his use of "we" not lost on Elena. "I've got cleaning supplies in the truck, and I'll bring a team out tomorrow to help with the heavier work. Chopping wood, checking the roof, that sort of thing. Why are you helping us?" Elena asked suddenly, unable to contain the question any longer. "You don't know us. You don't owe us anything." Nathan was quiet for a moment, his amber eyes serious as they met hers. "5 years ago, my sister Rachel showed up on my doorstep with my nephew, Ethan. Her husband had put her in the hospital twice before she found the courage to leave." His jaw tightened at the memory. "I know what it looks like when someone's running from something. Or someone." Elena felt the blood drain from her face. Was she that transparent? Had Martha told him everything? "I'm not," she began, the denial automatic after years of hiding the truth. "You don't have to explain," Nathan interrupted gently. "Not to me, not to anyone here. Your reasons are your own. But if you need help, all you have to do is ask." The simple offer, made without judgment or expectation, broke something open inside Elena. For 5 years, she had carried her burden alone, protecting Miguel, planning their escape in secret, living in constant fear. The thought that she might not have to face everything alone anymore was almost too much to comprehend. "Thank you," she whispered, the words wholly inadequate for the emotion behind them. Nathan nodded once, then turned his attention to practical matters. "Let's get this place cleaned up enough for you to stay tonight. Tomorrow we'll tackle the bigger projects." As they worked side by side, sweeping away dust and cobwebs, airing out musty bedding, Elena found herself watching Nathan when he wasn't looking. There was a quietness to him, a patience that put her at ease despite her ingrained wariness. He showed Miguel how to safely feed kindling into the fireplace, answered the boys' endless questions about wildlife in the canyon with genuine interest, and kept a respectful distance from Elena at all times, as if sensing her need for space. By late afternoon, the cabin had been transformed. The floors gleamed with lemon oil, fresh sheets covered the beds, and a fire crackled cheerfully in the stone fireplace. Ruby's provisions were arranged neatly in the cupboards, and Nathan had brought in additional supplies from his own home: coffee, milk, fresh vegetables from his garden. "It's not much," he said, surveying their work, "but it should do for now. I'll be back tomorrow with more firewood, and to check the roof before these rains come." Elena walked him to his truck, leaving Miguel engrossed in arranging his few toys on the bunk bed. The sun was beginning to set, painting the canyon walls in brilliant oranges and pinks that took her breath away. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, crossing her arms against the evening chill. Nathan shook his head. "No need. That's what neighbors do here." He reached into his truck and pulled out a handheld radio. "Cell service is spotty at best out here. Keep this with you. Channel 3 will reach me directly if you need anything." Elena accepted the radio, their fingers brushing briefly in the exchange. The simple human contact, freely given without threat or expectation, sent an unexpected warmth through her. "The ranger station job," she said suddenly. "When could I start?" Nathan smiled, the expression transforming his serious face. "Monday, if that works for you. 9 to 2. Weekdays. We can work around Miguel's needs." As his truck disappeared down the winding track, Elena stood on the porch, watching the shadows lengthen across the canyon. For the first time in years, the tightness in her chest had eased slightly. The cabin behind her wasn't just shelter, it was possibility. And the stranger who had helped them, with his quiet strength and unexpected kindness, had given her something she had almost forgotten how to feel: hope. Nathan's hand was warm against the small of her back as he guided Elena into the gentle rhythm of the dance. For a moment, she remained stiff, hyper-aware of the other couples around them, of being watched, of being vulnerable in this public space. Then Nathan began humming quietly along with the melody, the vibration of his voice somehow grounding her in the present moment. "Just feel the music," he murmured, his breath warm against her hair. Slowly, Elena let herself relax into the dance, her body remembering movements she thought she had forgotten. Nathan led with a confident gentleness, never pulling or pushing, simply suggesting the next step with the slightest pressure of his hand. From the edge of the dance area, Miguel watched with wide eyes, clapping his hands in delight when Elena glanced his way. Ruby stood beside him, a knowing smile playing at her lips as she caught Elena's eye. The song ended too soon. As the final notes faded, Nathan stepped back slightly, still holding her hand but giving her space to breathe, to decide. The band immediately began another slow melody, and Elena found herself stepping closer again, accepting the invitation without words. This time, the dance felt more natural, the space between them narrowing as Elena's confidence grew. The scent of Nathan's aftershave mingled with the crisp autumn air, and she could feel the steady beat of his heart where her hand rested against his chest. "Thank you," she said softly, not just for the dance, but for everything. The job, the cabin, the way he had made space for her and Miguel in his life without demands or expectations. "For what?" he asked, his voice equally quiet, meant only for her. "For showing me that not all men are like Marco." His hand tightened slightly on hers, and when she looked up, the emotion in his amber eyes nearly stole her breath. "Elena," he began, but whatever he meant to say was interrupted as Miguel came running up, tugging at their joined hands. "Mama, Mr. Nathan, can I dance too?" The intimate moment broken, Nathan laughed and swung Miguel up into his arms. "Of course you can, Junior Ranger. Every ranger needs to know how to dance." The three of them swayed together under the twinkling lights, Miguel perched on Nathan's hip, one arm around his neck, the other reaching for Elena's hand. They formed a circle, connected, whole, in a way Elena hadn't believed possible again. Later, as they drove back to the cabin, Miguel fell asleep in his booster seat, exhausted from the excitement of the day. In the quiet darkness of the truck cab, Elena found herself stealing glances at Nathan's profile, illuminated by the dashboard lights. "Thank you for today," she said. Miguel had a wonderful time. "And you?" Nathan asked, his eyes briefly meeting hers before returning to the winding canyon road. "I did too," she admitted. It felt almost normal. "Normal is underrated," he said with a slight smile. "After everything you've been through, you deserve some ordinary happiness." The concept struck Elena as profound in its simplicity. Ordinary happiness. Not the dramatic highs and lows of life with Marco, but steady, reliable contentment. Safety. Peace. The freedom to simply exist without fear. When they reached the cabin, Nathan carried the sleeping Miguel inside and gently laid him on his bed while Elena removed his shoes. They worked together in comfortable silence, the domesticity of the moment both sweet and painful for Elena. This was what a family should feel like, she thought. This ease, this mutual care. On the porch, Nathan paused before leaving. The night was clear, stars scattered like diamonds across the velvet sky above the canyon. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called, the sound echoing off the stone walls. "I had a good time tonight too," he said, hands in his pockets, his usual confidence tempered with something that looked almost like uncertainty. "Seeing you dance, seeing you smile, it means a lot." Elena wrapped her arms around herself against the night chill, not trusting herself to speak. The evening had awakened feelings she thought long dead, possibilities she hadn't dared consider. "I should go," Nathan said after a moment, correctly reading her need for space. "I'll check in tomorrow, make sure you have enough firewood for the week." As his truck disappeared down the canyon road, Elena remained on the porch, looking up at the vast canopy of stars. 6 weeks had passed since they arrived in Copper Creek. 6 weeks of healing, of finding their footing in this new life. 6 weeks of knowing Nathan Blackwood, whose steady presence had become as essential to her sense of safety as the solid walls of the cabin. "Don't be a fool," she whispered to herself, echoing the warning she had given herself that night after the storm. But the words held less conviction now, softened by the memory of Nathan's hand warm against her back, the way Miguel's face lit up when the ranger appeared, the growing certainty that some men, at least, could be trusted with a heart's most fragile hopes. The following week brought the first real cold snap of autumn. Elena awoke one morning to find frost silvering the meadow grass around the cabin, and ice crystals forming delicate patterns on the windows. Nathan arrived with extra blankets and helped her weatherproof the cabin's windows and doors against the approaching winter. "Canyon winters can be harsh," he explained as they worked. "Beautiful, but unforgiving if you're not prepared." They fell into a rhythm, working side by side to split more firewood, organize the pantry with preserved foods Martha had sent, and ensure the generator was functioning properly. Miguel helped by carrying small armloads of kindling and holding the flashlight when Nathan checked beneath the cabin for any signs of animals seeking shelter from the cold. As the temperature dropped further, Elena's work at the ranger station decreased. Fewer visitors ventured into the canyon during the colder months, and the visitor center reduced its hours accordingly. Her shortened workday meant more time with Miguel, exploring the winter landscape of their new home. Nathan taught them to identify animal tracks in the snow, to spot the birds that remained during the cold months, to read the weather in the cloud patterns over the canyon. Each lesson was delivered with patience and genuine enthusiasm that kindled Miguel's curiosity and eased Elena's lingering anxiety about surviving in this remote place. On a particularly cold Sunday afternoon, Nathan arrived with his truck bed covered in a tarp. "Got something for the cabin," he announced, motioning for Elena to help him unload. Beneath the tarp was a beautiful wooden rocking chair, the pine polished to a warm glow, a colorful cushion tied to the seat. "You made this," Elena realized, running her hand over the smooth armrest. Nathan nodded, a hint of color touching his cheekbones that had nothing to do with the cold. "Noticed you didn't have a comfortable place to sit and read. Thought it might make the evenings nicer." The thoughtfulness of the gift brought unexpected tears to Elena's eyes. How long had it been since someone had noticed what she needed? What would bring her comfort, without her having to ask? Marco had given extravagant gifts when it suited him. Jewelry, designer clothes, things to show her off as his possession, but never something made by his own hands, never something that spoke of attention to her happiness. "It's beautiful," she said, voice thick with emotion. "Thank you." That evening, after Miguel was asleep, Elena settled into the rocking chair beside the fire, a book open in her lap. But her thoughts kept drifting to the man who had made it, to the care evident in every smoothed edge and perfectly fitted joint, to the way he looked at her when he thought she wouldn't notice, with a warmth that both frightened and thrilled her. The comfortable routine of their life in the canyon continued as November deepened toward winter. Elena found herself looking forward to Nathan's visits, the three of them sharing meals, playing board games by the fire, or simply talking as Miguel built elaborate structures with the wooden blocks Nathan had carved for him. One evening, as snow fell gently outside the cabin windows, Nathan mentioned casually that his family always hosted Thanksgiving dinner at the ranch house. "Nothing fancy," he explained, "but everyone contributes something. Martha will be there, and Ruby. A few of the other rangers. You and Miguel would be welcome." The invitation sent a ripple of anxiety through Elena. She had grown comfortable with Nathan, with Martha and Ruby, even with the small staff at the ranger station. But the thought of a larger gathering, of being introduced as… what? Nathan's friend? The woman staying in Martha's cabin? It felt like a step she wasn't sure she was ready to take. Nathan read her hesitation easily. "No pressure," he assured her. "Just thought you might enjoy the company. Holidays can be tough when you're starting over." The understanding in his voice made her heart ache. He was right, of course. She had been dreading the holiday season, the memories it would inevitably bring of past Thanksgivings with her family before Marco had gradually isolated her from them, of Miguel's excitement last year when they had managed a small celebration during one of Marco's business trips. "I'll think about it," she promised. That night, after Nathan left, Elena found herself standing by the window watching the snow blanket the canyon in pristine white. Miguel was growing to love this place, this life. He spoke of Nathan constantly, looked forward to their adventures together, was blossoming in ways she had feared might never happen after the damage Marco had inflicted. And she was healing too, she realized. The constant knot of fear in her stomach had eased. She no longer flinched at sudden movements, or apologized automatically for imagined offenses. She had begun to remember who she was before Marco, the confident young woman with dreams and opinions of her own. Much of that healing, she knew, was due to Nathan. His unwavering respect, his patience, the way he supported without smothering, helped without creating dependency. He had shown her what healthy care looked like, what true strength was. Not dominance or control, but the steadfast holding of space for another to grow. The decision, when it crystallized in her mind, felt right. They would go to Thanksgiving dinner. They would take this step into wider community. into deeper belonging in Copper Creek, and perhaps into a future she was finally allowing herself to imagine. The morning of Thanksgiving dawned clear and cold. The canyon transformed into a winter wonderland overnight. Elena woke early, nerves fluttering in her stomach as she prepared the sweet potato casserole she had promised to bring, using her grandmother's recipe that Martha had thoughtfully provided. Miguel was excited, chattering about seeing the horses again as Elena helped him dress in his nicest clothes, a sweater and corduroys she had purchased at the small general store in town. His enthusiasm was contagious, gradually easing her anxiety as they waited for Nathan to pick them up. When his truck appeared, chains on the tires for the snowy roads, Elena took a deep breath and reminded herself that these were friends, people who had accepted them without judgment, who had helped make this canyon a home. Nathan's family ranch was larger than Elena had expected. The main house, a sprawling single-story building of timber and stone that blended harmoniously with the snowy landscape. Smoke curled from the chimney, and warm light spilled from the windows. Several vehicles were already parked in the cleared driveway. "Ready?" Nathan asked, as he helped Miguel from his booster seat. Elena nodded, clutching her casserole dish like a shield. "As I'll ever be." Inside, the house was warm and inviting, filled with delicious smells and the sound of conversation and laughter. Martha waved from an armchair by the fire, her walking cast now replaced with a supportive boot. Ruby emerged from what must be the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron and embracing Elena warmly. "You made it! Come in! Come in! Let me take that dish before you drop it." The next hour passed in a blur of introductions. Nathan's brother David and his wife Karen, their 2 children who immediately took Miguel under their wing, several rangers Elena recognized from the station, and neighbors she had glimpsed in town but never formally met. To her surprise, no one asked probing questions about her past or her relationship with Nathan. She was simply accepted as part of the gathering, included in conversations, her opinions sought on everything from the best way to prepare cranberry sauce to whether the snow would last until Christmas. In the kitchen, helping Ruby and Karen arrange dishes on the long dining table, Elena found herself relaxing. This was normal, ordinary, the kind of holiday gathering she had missed for years under Marco's isolating control. "Nathan looks happier than I've seen him in years," Karen commented casually as they worked. "Having you and Miguel around has been good for him." Before Elena could formulate a response, Miguel came running in, face flushed with excitement. "Mama, Uncle David is going to let me feed the horses after dinner. Can I? Please?" Uncle David. The casual adoption of family terminology brought tears to Elena's eyes. "Of course, mijo," she managed, "if Uncle David says it's okay." When dinner was served, Elena found herself seated beside Nathan. At the long table, Miguel on her other side perched on a stack of books to reach his plate comfortably. David, at the head of the table, asked everyone to join hands for grace. The simple ritual, the warmth of Nathan's hand clasping hers, Miguel's smaller one on the other side, it felt right in a way that made Elena's heart ache with gratitude. Throughout the meal, she found herself watching Nathan interact with his family. The easy teasing with his brother, the gentle way he helped Martha when she needed something beyond her reach, his patience with the children's endless questions. This was who he was, consistently kind, unfailingly considerate, whether anyone was watching or not. After dinner, while the others gathered in the living room for coffee and pie, Elena slipped away to the kitchen to help with cleanup. She found Nathan there, already rinsing dishes and loading the dishwasher. "You don't have to do that," she protested. "You should be with your family." "You're cleaning up too," he pointed out with a smile. "Besides, I like the quiet in here. Big gatherings are nice, but I need breaks." They worked in companionable silence for a few minutes, the simple domestic task soothing after the social energy of the dinner. "Your family is wonderful," Elena said finally. "Thank you for including us." Nathan glanced at her, something warm in his eyes. "They're your family too, if you want them to be. Everyone adores Miguel. And you." He paused, seeming to search for the right words. "You fit here, Elena, in a way that feels right." The simplicity of the statement, the truth of it, made her breath catch. She did fit here. In this canyon, In this community, in the space beside this man who had become essential to her sense of safety and belonging. "I'm starting to believe that," she admitted softly. Nathan set down the dish he was drying, turning to face her fully. "I know it's soon," he said, his voice low and earnest. "I know you're still healing, still finding your footing, and I would never rush you or pressure you. But I need you to know." He took a deep breath. "I'm falling in love with you, Elena. With both of you. And whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here." The declaration, spoken with such gentle honesty, left Elena speechless. In the silence that followed, uncertainty flickered in Nathan's eyes. "I've overstepped," he said quickly. "I'm sorry." "Forget I." "No," Elena interrupted, finding her voice at last. "You haven't overstepped. You've just surprised me." She looked down at her hands, searching for the right words. "Marco said he loved me too, in the beginning. But it wasn't love. It was possession." Nathan nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Love doesn't trap. It doesn't diminish. Real love wants the other person to be free, to be fully themselves." "I'm learning that," Elena said softly. "With you." She took a step closer to him, her heart pounding. "I'm not ready to say the words yet. But I'm feeling something I never thought I'd feel again. Something that scares me because of how much I want it to be real." Nathan's smile was gentle, patient. "We have time," he assured her. "All the time you need." The moment was interrupted by Miguel's arrival, his small face alight with excitement. "Mama! Uncle David says we can go see the horses now. Mr. Nathan, will you come too?" Nathan's eyes held Elena's for one more heartbeat, filled with promise and possibility. Then he turned to Miguel with a warm smile. "Wouldn't miss it, Junior Ranger. Let's go get your coat." As the three of them bundled up against the cold, joining David and his children for the trip to the stables, Elena felt a sense of rightness settle over her. This was family. Not the twisted version Marco had created through control and fear, but the real thing, built on mutual care and respect. The days following Thanksgiving brought a deeper cold to the canyon, the kind that made the snow squeak underfoot and transformed every breath into visible vapor. Nathan came by daily, checking the cabin's heating system, bringing extra supplies, and often staying for dinner. His declaration in the kitchen hadn't changed their dynamic. He remained respectful of her boundaries, never pushing for more than she was ready to give. But there was a new openness between them, an acknowledged current of feeling that no longer needed to be hidden. One evening, as they sat before the fire while Miguel played with his toys on the rug, Nathan mentioned casually that the town's annual Christmas festival was approaching. "There's a children's pageant," he explained. "The elementary school puts it on. David's kids are in it this year. Miguel might enjoy watching." Elena hesitated. The Christmas season had been particularly difficult with Marco, his stress over business deadlines and family obligations often turning to anger directed at her and Miguel. The holiday had become something to endure rather than celebrate. "We haven't really talked about Christmas," she admitted. "I'm not sure what traditions to start here." Nathan considered this. "What did you enjoy about Christmas as a child? Before Marco?" The question triggered a flood of warm memories. Helping her grandmother make tamales, midnight mass with her parents, the small but thoughtful gifts they exchanged, emphasis always on presence rather than presence. "Family," she said softly, "being together. Simple traditions that had meaning." "Then start there," Nathan suggested. "Build something new that honors what was good in your past." The wisdom of his advice struck Elena deeply. So much of her energy had been focused on escaping the pain of her years with Marco that she had almost forgotten the joy that came before him, the traditions that had shaped her childhood. "The festival sounds nice," she said finally. "Miguel would love it." The following weekend, they joined the crowd gathered in the town square for the children's pageant. The simple production, complete with cardboard scenery and forgotten lines delivered in earnest child voices, brought unexpected tears to Elena's eyes. This was childhood as it should be, joyful, innocent, supported by a community that celebrated each small achievement. Afterward, there was hot chocolate and cookies, a bonfire where people roasted marshmallows, and the lighting of the town Christmas tree. Miguel was enchanted by it all, especially when Santa arrived on the back of a pickup truck decorated to look like a sleigh. "Mama, can Santa find us at the cabin?" he asked anxiously as they watched other children lining up to sit on Santa's lap. The question caught Elena off guard. In Phoenix, Marco had dismissed Santa as, quote, lying to children, another tradition he had taken from them in his need for control. "Of course he can," Nathan answered before Elena could respond. "Santa knows where all good children live. And you've been very good, helping your mom and being such a great junior ranger." The absolute certainty in his voice, the way he stepped in to preserve Miguel's childhood wonder. It was such a small thing, yet it moved Elena profoundly. This was what a father should be, she thought. Someone who protected innocence rather than destroying it. As December deepened, the canyon transformed further into a winter wonderland. Nathan brought a small pine tree for the cabin, and they spent an evening decorating it with ornaments Martha had contributed from her collection, and simple decorations they made from pine cones and ribbon. Miguel's excitement grew as Christmas approached. Elena found herself caught up in his joy, rediscovering the magic of the season through his eyes. Nathan was a constant presence, bringing traditions of his own to share, a Christmas Eve bonfire, stories of the canyon's history, stargazing on clear winter nights. One evening, a week before Christmas, Nathan invited them to his ranch for dinner. "I have something for Miguel," he explained. "An early Christmas gift." The something turned out to be a small wooden sled, handcrafted like the rocking chair he had made for Elena. Miguel's eyes widened with delight when Nathan unveiled it in the barn. "Is it really mine?" he asked, running his small hands over the polished wood and the leather seat. "All yours," Nathan confirmed, "and I know the perfect hill for trying it out." The next hour was filled with laughter, as Nathan pulled Miguel up a gentle slope behind the ranch house and guided the sled down again and again. Elena watched from the porch, heart full at the sight of her son's unbridled joy, at the patient way Nathan taught him how to steer, how to stop safely, celebrating each successful run with high fives and proud smiles. When rosy cheeks and cold noses finally drove them inside, Nathan had hot cider waiting, the spicy sweet scent filling the warm kitchen. Miguel fell asleep on the sofa afterward, exhausted from his sledding adventure, his small body curled trustingly against Nathan's side. "He adores you," Elena said softly, watching them from her place in the armchair opposite. Nathan looked down at the sleeping child, his expression tender. "Feelings mutual," he admitted. "He's an amazing kid, Elena. Smart, kind, resilient, like his mother." The compliment warmed her. "He's becoming himself again," she said. "The way he was before Marco's control damaged his spirit. I was so afraid that part of him was lost forever." "Children are remarkably adaptable," Nathan observed. "Given safety and love, they can heal from almost anything." "And adults?" Elena asked quietly. Nathan's eyes met hers, understanding the deeper question. "Adults too," he said. "It just takes longer sometimes, more conscious effort, but I've seen it happen. With Rachel, with others who found their way to the canyon over the years. With me?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. "With you," he confirmed, his gaze steady and warm. "Every day I see you growing stronger, trusting yourself more. It's beautiful to witness, Elena." The simple truth of his words, the respect with which he acknowledged her journey, it broke something open in Elena's heart. Without conscious decision, she rose from her chair and moved to sit beside him on the sofa, careful not to disturb Miguel. "Thank you," she said softly, "for seeing me, the real me, not just the broken parts." Nathan's hand found hers, his fingers warm and calloused from ranch work. "There's nothing broken about you, Elena. Wounded, maybe. Healing, definitely. But never broken." The distinction felt important somehow. In that moment, looking into Nathan's amber eyes filled with such genuine care, Elena made a decision. Slowly, giving herself time to change her mind, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle, tentative, A question as much as an answer. Nathan remained still, letting her set the pace, his only response, the slight tightening of his fingers around hers. When she pulled back, his eyes were filled with something that made her breath catch. Not desire or triumph, but a profound tenderness that spoke of patience, of commitment, of a love that would wait as long as necessary. "I'm still afraid," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "Of making another mistake, of trusting the wrong person, of Miguel getting hurt again." "I know," Nathan said simply, "and that's okay. Fear is part of healing. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise enough to be cautious." He brushed a strand of hair from her face with infinite gentleness. "All I ask is that you give yourself permission to hope, to believe that something good might be waiting on the other side of fear." The wisdom of his words settled deep in Elena's heart. Permission to hope. Such a simple concept, yet so profound for someone who had trained herself to expect the worst, to see danger around every corner. "I'm trying," she whispered. "Every day I'm trying." Christmas Eve arrived with a fresh blanket of snow across the canyon. As arranged, Nathan picked them up in the early afternoon for the drive to his ranch, where David's family would be joining them for dinner before the town's candlelight service. Miguel was nearly vibrating with excitement, clutching the small gifts he had helped Elena make for everyone. Painted stones for the adults, special treasure maps of the canyon for David's children. His enthusiasm was infectious, gradually easing Elena's lingering anxiety about the holiday. The dinner was wonderful, a blend of traditional American dishes and Mexican specialties Elena had taught Ruby to prepare in honor of her heritage. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and the children's excited speculation about Santa's impending visit. Afterward, they all bundled up for the drive into town, for the candlelight service. The small church was already filled with familiar faces when they arrived. Martha and Ruby, rangers from the station, shopkeepers and neighbors Elena now greeted by name. As they found seats, Elena marveled at how quickly Copper Creek had become home, how these people had transformed from strangers to community in just a few short months. Miguel settled between her and Nathan, his small hand slipping into Nathan's larger one with easy trust that brought tears to Elena's eyes. The service was simple but moving. Carols sung by candlelight, the Christmas story read by children from the town, a brief message about hope and new beginnings that seemed written especially for Elena's heart. As they sang Silent Night, the entire congregation holding candles aloft in the darkened church, Elena felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. They were halfway back to the ranch when Miguel fell asleep in his booster seat, worn out from the day's excitement. Nathan glanced at him in the rearview mirror, then at Elena. "I have something for you," he said quietly, "back at the ranch, an early Christmas gift." When they arrived, David and Karen offered to put Miguel to bed in their daughter's room along with their own sleepy children. "Take some time for yourselves," Karen suggested with a knowing smile. "We've got this." In the quiet of the empty living room, with only the Christmas tree lights illuminating the space, Nathan handed Elena a small wrapped package. "It's not much," he said, suddenly seeming nervous, "but I wanted you to have it tonight." Elena unwrapped the gift carefully. Inside was a small leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with an image of the canyon. When she opened it, she found the first page inscribed in Nathan's neat handwriting, "For Elena. To record new beginnings, new memories, new dreams. The past has shaped you, but it doesn't define you. The future is yours to write." The thoughtfulness of the gift, the perfect understanding it represented, brought tears to Elena's eyes. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Thank you." Nathan took her hand, his expression serious. "Elena, I meant what I said at Thanksgiving. I'm falling in love with you, with your strength, your courage, your heart, with the mother you are to Miguel, the friend you've become to so many here." He took a deep breath. "I know you're still healing. I know trust comes hard after what you've been through, and I will wait, however long it takes, for you to feel safe enough to let yourself love again." The sincerity in his voice, the patience in his eyes, it undid her final defenses. "Nathan," she said softly, "I don't think I need to wait anymore." She stepped closer, lifting her free hand to touch his face. "You've shown me what real love looks like, not possession or control, but support, freedom, safety." Her voice caught. "I was hiding when I came here, running from my past. But you've helped me find something I thought was lost forever, myself. And in finding myself, I found room in my heart for you." Nathan's eyes were bright with emotion as he drew her gently into his arms. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Elena smiled through her tears. "I'm saying I love you, Nathan Blackwood. And I'm not afraid to say it anymore." This time when they kissed, there was no hesitation, no holding back. Elena poured all her newfound courage, her rediscovered hope, her hard-won trust into the embrace. And Nathan responded with the patient tenderness that had been her salvation, the steady strength that had become her sanctuary. When they finally parted, Nathan rested his forehead against hers, their breath mingling in the quiet room. "Move in with me," he said softly. "Not right away, whenever you're ready. But I want to build a life with you and Miguel, a real family." The word family resonated in Elena's heart. That was what they had become, gradually, naturally, not through legal bonds or social obligations, but through daily acts of care and commitment, through the conscious choice to trust, to hope, to love. "Yes," she whispered. "Not right away, but soon." Outside the window, snow began to fall again, soft flakes dancing in the glow of the Christmas lights. Elena thought of the long journey that had brought her here, the pain she had endured, the courage it had taken to leave, the fear she had carried all the way to Echo Canyon. And now this moment, this man, this promise of a future she had stopped believing was possible. She had come to the canyon to hide from her troubles. But the stranger she found there had given her something far more precious than a hiding place. He had given her a home, a family, a reason to stop running and start building something that would last. As Nathan's arms tightened around her, Elena knew with bone-deep certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The canyon had called her here, not to hide, but to heal, to find the strength that had been within her all along, to discover that sometimes the end of one journey is simply the beginning of a far more beautiful one, and that sometimes love is waiting where you least expect to find it, in a hidden canyon, in a stranger's kindness, in the courage to begin again. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.